Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Rip right field towards the corner.
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
Adonis in Los Angeles. Is Plasky hanging out there behind you right now, Jay? No? Mute by association. Kalisho, Gutierrez, Isola, Teddy, Baboom, Kerplunk, say what? One tough mutter. And,
did he catch it?
Yeah!
Oh, just take that back.
Woo! Yeah. You guys want to start with the Rockets or start with the Clippers?
Yeah.
Rockets it is. Come on, live a little, people. Frank, at 3-1 down, you still had them in position to make a comeback, so points for you. And the comeback, not just the comeback. The comeback, the way they came back, without Harden for huge chunks. Josh Smith, Brewer, Prigioni coming up huge. Wire to wire in Game 7. So, Jay, what did Game 7 and the way this whole series played out tell you about the Rockets?
Well, it tells me that they made one of the best acquisitions of the year, grabbing Josh Smith off the waiver wire from the scrap heap.
It's true, though, right?
Back in December, because he was the guy I thought who really turned things around in Game 6. Back-to-back three-pointers, 14 points in the fourth quarter, and then he shoots 6 for 10 in Game 7, plays some good defense on Blake Griffin. So James Harden was James Harden, Dwight Howard is Dwight Howard, but Josh Smith, for a team that supposedly is very analytics-oriented, takes one of the guys that the number crunchers hate and advances to the conference finals with him.
Tim Kalishaw?
They had a lot of heroes on the court, like J.A. mentioned, like Trevor Ariza, who played 88 minutes the last 2 games, hit a ton of big threes. They had a big one off the court in Kevin McHale, who was maligned after that Game 4 Hackett Jordan episode. They lost by 33, kind of a joke. That was their only choice in that game because they were getting killed because Howard had gotten into foul trouble. Howard came back and played very well in the last 3 games, and I think people should notice that Kevin McHale, only guy now to go back from 3-1 as a player and as a coach.
Okay, Israel Gutierrez?
Well, those guys made a ton of the points I was going to make, so I'll just keep going a little bit further. I think it says a lot about I think some of the narrative about Dwight Howard you could probably throw out the window a little bit because, after being down 3-1 and getting ejected from that game, a lot of people said, hey, same old Dwight Howard. He came back and played phenomenal in those last few games. And I think the bench was huge. Basically, if you take the play of this Rockets bench and give it to the Clippers would have won this series. So obviously it's a 7-game series, so it's pretty close. And that difference was those other guys. And I think Kevin McHale, not only bringing in Josh Smith, not only recovering from that Hackett Jordan situation, but not playing James Harden down the stretch in Game 6, absolutely critical. I think Kevin McHale deserves a lot of credit.
How about you, Frank Isola?
Teams have come back from 3-1 down before, but this is the most stunning one, in my opinion. Remember, the Clippers won Game 1 in Houston without Chris Paul. And the fact that they, you question their heart, their character, their toughness, then down 19, 14 and a half minutes to go in Game 6, and everything changed, really, for the Houston Rockets. And over the final 5 quarters, they outscored the Clippers by 38 points. They absolutely dominated them, and it really wasn't hard. And Howard did a terrific job, as did Josh Smith. Let's not forget about Corey Brewer, who won a championship. It's nice to know, Izzy, that someone once they leave Florida has done something with his career, like Corey Brewer.
Israel, you want to respond to that?
I'm not going to touch that one, okay? I'm not going to touch that one. But I will say that I think Trevor Ariza, there was a lot of questions about Trevor Ariza during the season. Oh, did he just have a great season last year because he was on a contract year? Well, he had a down regular season, but he's coming up big right when they need him, and I think he deserves a lot of credit.
You want to talk Clippers? We'll talk Clippers. Because what now for this team, for this franchise? 2 weeks ago, we were talking about franchise-changing win when they beat the Spurs. Now it's a franchise-changing loss brought to you by Don Draper. Tim Kalishaw, is this a bigger indictment of Doc, Paul, or Griffin?
Wow.
I'm going to start with Doc Rivers. Not that it's all on him, but there were certainly people on this show a few years ago who put it all on Vinny Del Negro, and let's just get rid of him and bring in the great Doc Rivers, and that's going to change everything. Well, Vinny got him to the second round. Doc with better players, with those key players being better players now, like Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, still can't get past the second round. It's not that I think he got out-coached. I think he has the same problem Del Negro had. This team doesn't have any depth, and there is something just missing, some ingredient missing that doesn't allow this team to win.
You just compared him to Vinny Del Negro. I saw a lot of faces on this panel you're with right now.
I have no problem doing that.
Okay. Well, Israel, you want to respond to that, or you want to talk about this Clippers team?
I'm going to talk about the Clippers team, and I'm going to split it between Doc Rivers, the president of basketball ops, and Chris Paul. Because here's the thing about Chris Paul, and, even just as soon as yesterday, I was talking about basically he gets a pass, essentially, because he's performed great individually, and his team has never really lost to a team that's inferior to his team in the postseason. This is about as close as it gets. I'm not saying the Rockets were inferior, because obviously their bench outdid the Clippers bench.
And
but
they were
were pretty close, obviously, and they got to a Game 7. Obviously, yeah, they were the 2 seed. But when you talk about being up 3-1, and that's when your leader sort of takes over, finishes the deal. Chris Paul didn't necessarily do that, and especially in the first half of Game 7 on the road, you want your main guy to set the tone. Chris Paul did not.
When you have that on your resume, I think he's got the 3rd most playoff games all time without making the conference finals, Frank Isola. What does that mean for someone like Chris Paul?
It's big, and this one on his resume is huge, and this falls on Doc Rivers, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul. Chris Paul and Blake Griffin are in every single commercial. They make all these all-star teams. They make a ton of money. They have to take a huge hit here. But I will say this, though. I'm keeping that core intact because if you're going to be a championship team, where are you finding a better point guard? Where are you finding a better power forward? DeAndre Jordan, I would re-sign him. To me, it's about those role players. When you hit adversity, now's when you really have to see the strength of the organization. You got to keep that core intact.
So,
I'm not giving up on
you
those
say
guys.
keep the core intact. You don't even think it's a question. DeAndre Jordan gets interesting, though, because it's 5 years, $100 million, I think, is what a report is. That's the max. And there's also the report, Jay, and you can address this, of maybe a falling out between Paul and Jordan this season.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not necessarily up to the Clippers whether or not they want to keep the core intact, because DeAndre Jordan might want to go elsewhere. And I also think that by losing this game in this series in the manner in which they did, they sort of forfeited the right to keep the core together. Now, certainly the Clippers are welcome to do so if they want, but this team hasn't earned the right to stay together because of that no-show in Game 7. They did not have the lead for a single second in Game 7. People talk about, well, the Spurs stuck together. They came back from Game 6 to win. First, they came back in Game 7 and gave the Heat a fight to the finish before
Kalisha back in
the next year.
They were up in a series 3-1 where they just won a game by 33 points, and they never came within 10 of another victory. That, to me, is on the leaders of the team. That has to be on Paul and Griffin.
And in fairness to Chris Paul, he needs playmaking help. They need somebody on the wing that can create for him, because it can't just be 95% him and then 5% Blake Griffin.
So to Frank's point that he would keep the core together, Adonde just said you cannot do that. Kalisha, you re-signed DeAndre Jordan? Israel, you re-signed DeAndre?
I think they will try, but I know Dallas and a number of other teams would love to have DeAndre Jordan.
I'd think about it really hard. I'm not sure where I'm leaning right now, but I would think about it really hard.
We've been horn, we'll move on. Real quick, the conference finals now, the Final Four. Vegas has Golden State's odds to win it all at 4-7. 4-7, Israel. Should the Warriors be the heavy favorites?
I don't even know what that means, 4-7, but I do think they should be. They should be heavy favorites. Absolutely, they should have been heavy favorites earlier. I know. I think a lot of people were down on them, obviously, when they lost a couple games to the Grizzlies. But that was just it. That was their slump. That's it. Like, this team is back to running it, and I don't know. They're not entirely healthy. Maurice Spates has issues and everything else. But in terms of health, they're probably more healthy. I mean, they're definitely more healthy than the Cavaliers, probably a little bit more healthy than the Hawks. And then, this Rockets team, they're healthy, but they absolutely dominated them during the regular season, the Warriors did. So I think they should absolutely run through this, yeah.
Isola?
Yeah, I don't know what 4-7 means. I do know what 6-8 on the Cleveland Cavalier means, and that's LeBron James. So, yes, the Warriors look terrific, but LeBron has been there, done that before. I'm betting on LeBron to win 8 more games.
Okay, the idea of the Warriors, and Israel just brought this up, they're playing better basketball, and that they were the favorite going in. Jay, you want to address that?
Exactly. The NBA playoffs are probably hold to the regular season more so than any other sport. Look, you have the top 2 seeds in the East and the top 2 seeds in the West playing, and the Warriors were the best team overall throughout the course of the regular season. The problem is, at this stage, you've got a locker room filled with players who've never been to the conference finals or the NBA finals before. And the one thing you have to take in mind from the regular season, too, when Cleveland played the Warriors with LeBron James, they beat them. So that's something to keep in mind should they meet.
Okay, not that I have experience in these matters, but 4-7 means you've got to bet $700 to win $400. Or if you're a little light in the wallet like Israel,
inside information.
To win $40.
We got you now. We got you there.
Strong.
Let's talk about the Warriors here.
Even money.
Okay.
Well, I think the Warriors should be even money. That's too much. That's too much. They still have to be too decent.
Israel seemed to suggest that Memphis would be their toughest competitor this postseason. Jay shaking his head yes to that. Timmy shaking your head no.
No, I mean, I look. Let's see what Houston does. Okay. Okay.
Thank you for that delightful preview here. Adonde. 12, Kalisha 13, Gutierrez 13, I sell the 14. We're taking a break. Buy or sell next. Coming up, your Marlins, Israel. Generally managing to make managing generally weirder. Stick around.
Not my Marlins.
Enough to give you gray hair, right, Israel?
Your Marlins.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Buy or sell.
Everybody chasing ice and buy or sell. What from Robert Kraft's interview with Peter King, mmqb.com. And we're going to throw a few choice cuts up there right now. Quote, ambiguous circumstantial evidence. Quote, no smoking gun. Quote, penalizing for an aroma. End quote. We penalize for aromas in this show. Jay, what are you buying? What are you selling from Kraft?
I'm selling Robert Kraft second-guessing the commissioner now when he was the one saying that if you second-guessed him after the Ray Rice fiasco, you didn't know him. Back then, he said he was doing an excellent job of handling. But now that things are turning against the Patriots, he doesn't think that Goodell is qualified to have all the power.
I'm buying Kraft having a right to be defiant. I thought the science in the follow-up, their Patriots follow-up to the Wells report was more compelling and seemed more honest than the science in the Wells report. Just on that standpoint alone, he seems to have.
Defiance by science, sure. Okay, how about you, Israel?
I'm selling the idea that they actually need a smoking gun, per se, because the NFL has never proven in penalizing people that they need a smoking gun, they need a guilty verdict or anything like that. But I am buying the idea of bringing up the aromatics because, as Bob would say, this stinks. It's
The aromatics, I like that. It's like the optics, but now we're using another sense. How about you, Frank?
You know, the Patriots lost a couple of picks. Robert Kraft has lost some chump change. Tom Brady has lost the most. And really, when you listen to those comments from Robert Kraft, he's really coming out and defending the franchise quarterback, who, if not for Tom Brady, you don't have any of these Super Bowl trophies. So he did the right thing.
Doesn't he have to? I mean, that's what you have to do. That's the aromatics, of course, of it all. Buy or sell, too. Israel's Marlins naming Dan Jennings manager. That's General Manager Dan Jennings. The GM who just fired the other manager, Mike Redmond, minutes after they were 2-hit yesterday. Kalisha, buy or sell the Marlins here?
I've got to sell this. I don't know anyone around baseball who is saying, man, when are the Marlins going to fire Mike Redmond? They're 6 games out of first with that great roster. If you're going to do that, and it seems like it's unnecessary, you ought to have a real managerial candidate in mind.
Right. Talk us through the idea of having your GM be your manager. We've seen,
that's something that happens in hockey sometimes when the GM fires the coach and he just steps down to the bench for a while. I don't think it works in baseball.
Israel?
I mean, this is classic Marlins. It's impatience. I don't know how you buy this. I mean, Dan Jennings is a guy who last managed at the high school level, and yet he's supposed to be the manager of a guy who picks up the pieces on a team that's expected to do something this year. This is Giancarlo Stanton's 8th major league manager. There's no way he stays with this team throughout the course of his contract. That's going to end.
And the Yankees are waiting for Stanton to leave the Marlins. You know, Redmond this season, he had his bullpen blow 8 saves. Is Dan Jennings now going to get them not to blow those saves? This is when you're trying to sell this to a clubhouse, everything is about credibility. As Izzy mentioned, the guy really didn't manage at any level. I think the players aren't going to buy this.
Adonde.
And Frank, if he's spending time getting to know the players in the clubhouse and watching them in batting practice, then that's time taken away from his general managing duties. So I don't see how he can expect it to excel at both. You wonder if the Marlins are just getting cheap all of a sudden after spending $325 million on Stanton. Now they don't want to have to pay that extra guy and bring in another outside manager.
Those Marlins didn't get cheap. Those Marlins went Marlins. And he's general manager. Does he wear part suit, part uniform in the dugout? How's that work? From the waist up?
Throw a tie on
the fashion mullet, business up top, party down below. That's what I'm doing right now. All right, buy or sell 3, 21 under, 7 clear, 61 on Saturday. Rory's destruction of the Wells Fargo. Of course, articles written about how dominant he is today, which read very similarly to the article 6 weeks ago about Jordan Spieth. Israel, what are you buying? What are you selling here?
Oh, I'm buying the idea that we should declare this a rivalry at this point because, look, it's probably no coincidence that Rory McIlroy goes on his little run after Jordan Spieth won the Masters, was on the cover of SI, was on the Wheaties box, and was declared the greatest golfer alive right now, which is obviously premature then.
I saw.
Yeah, it's really like a new era. Everyone's focused on Tiger Woods making a comeback, but you have good young golfers who are in the primes of their career, and it sets up a really good summer.
Adane?
Problem is it's almost as if McIlroy has to be snapped into it. At his best, he's untouchable, but he can get shaky too. He's missed 10 cuts since 2010. Tiger Woods, his first 8 years on the tour, missed only 1 cut. And actually, Tiger Woods has the second most victories. It feels like the age of McIlroy. He's only won 3 more tournaments.
All right, settle down on Tiger Woods, please, Adane. How about you, Kalisha?
Those Tiger wins were a long time ago in terms of how Tiger feels about it. I hate to get points plasma 3, but Israel's right. The rest of the summer is all about McIlroy and Spieth. Not one or the other. Their rivalry will be fomented the rest of the way here.
Fermented, huh? I wonder what the aromatics are like on that. Adane, you're 1 point shy, and that was a flashy deduction to start the program for people of your ilk. What's the last word?
How about the transfer property? So the Clippers cost Plasty, which cost me? That makes sense.
Yes, that's precisely. A equals B, B equals C, A equals mu. Kalisha, Gutierrez, Isola, lightning round next. Coming up, Paul Pierce. Woo! He's wondering if he's going out like this. Would that be cool or sad for him to go out with the shot that didn't count, but kind of counted? Here's 20, Timmy Frank 19. Anybody's ball game. Lightning round. Here we go again on our own, going down the only road we've ever known. This time sloppier, easier, no matter. For the 15th time in 37 years. And third in a 4, we have a chance at the Triple Crown, Kalisha. You getting that Triple Crown feeling with American Pharoah?
I am not getting that feeling yet. I just think you look at the horses that have had great chances recently, like Big Brown and Smarty Jones. You go way back to Spectacular Bid. These were great horses. They couldn't get it done. Let's hold off on saying it's going to happen just yet.
It felt like you wanted to hold off on saying holding off. How about you, Israel?
I'm getting the same feeling I got with California Chrome or with Smarty Jones or with Big, potentially huge Brown. Until it happens, it happens. Like I don't understand. Like I really don't. I don't understand the
well, you don't understand
what
the idea of the Triple Crown is winning 3 races.
The nature of the obsession of the Triple Crown. Yeah.
Okay. Duly noted. How about you, Frank?
Let me tell you something. That Mutta is one beautiful animal, and the race was tremendous. But I root against the horse because I want to see a firm be the only Triple Crown winner. I want to see this go 40, 50 years. So no offense.
So this is fun for you. You like that it keeps on happening every year. Okay.
Absolutely.
Say hello to your Mutta for me, all right? Lightning 2, Paul Pierce. Openly wondering if he's going to retire after that shot right there. The shot that went in but didn't go in. What are the chances Pierce goes out like that, Israel?
They're probably good. I mean, I would say the Wizards probably even need somebody a little bit more dynamic than that. And let's be honest. I mean, how can you do that again? No, overall, not just in game-winning situations.
How much more?
How can you recreate that? You might as well go out like that, right? You got your title.
Okay. Isola, how about you?
Yeah, and Pierce, for a second-round loser, he had a huge postseason, and they have developed Otto Porter. I would not be shocked, though, if Pierce somehow doesn't end up one final season at home in L.A., playing for the Clippers.
Right, so it's his option, right? So you would say he would move to, where's he going? The Clippers, you said? To L.A.? Okay.
Oh, his old coach.
How about you, Kalisha?
I wouldn't call it off yet. He and Dirk Nowitzki came in together 17 years ago, the 9th and 10th picks in a draft. Most of those guys in front of him have been gone for, some of them for a decade. And Dirk's got 2 more years left in him, says he does. I would keep going. He obviously can still hit the big shots.
Israel, I want to say that wasn't a dynamic enough segment from you. I mean, there weren't enough big shots. There wasn't enough trash talk going on in that series. How about you, Israel?
Paul. Yeah, that was the opposite of Paul. I didn't hit a big shot at the end, so I guess I'm not dynamic. You're right.
Kalisha, Isola. That's going to be our showdown. Straight ahead, whether tackling a tree will help you be a better football player.
Oh, my goodness.
But
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
it's showdown. It's Isola and Kalisha, and it's the Philly fan who took this ball from the other, slightly older, more maternal Philly fan. Kalishaw, your view of it all? You going to call that ball fair game or something
No, it's not fair game at all. That's Michael Franco's first home run. It's going to be a souvenir. You're going to go get a shirt, a bat, whatever. Don't be knocking a woman out of the way to go get it. That's not fair play at all. It's right in front of her flower.
That's why you go after the ball. Have you ever been to Philly before? All is fair in love, war, and chasing after home run balls. That is Philadelphia to a T, and they don't make any excuses for it.
We're going to give Tim Kalishaw. We'll move on. Tackling a tree to the ground versus catching a pitch that is hitting you and tossing it back to the pitcher. More stirring display of fortitude and strength, Frank.
The tree hugger, that's a setup video. I'm not buying that. When you get hit by a pitch like that and you catch it and he lets the ball roll into his hands and very casually tosses it back, that not shows a lot of skill. It shows a lot of toughness as well. Pretty impressive.
No, I mean, look, that's impressive to catch a ball like that and throw it back.
Yeah.
But I think it was a slider. It was an off-speed pitch. The man knocked down a tree. He tackled a tree. We don't see that in video.
Was it rooted?
Give him his props.
So you don't agree with Frank that the roots. You don't agree with Frank that the tree was kind of chopped down before he took his.
Come on, didn't have a lot of roots, but there were some roots down there. I mean, you know, he still knocked it down.
Don't forget your roots, Tim Kalishaw. FaceTime.
Thank you. I don't forget my roots. That's why I went back to watch Josh Hamilton play Saturday night in Frisco. Saw him get 3 singles and a double. He will be doing something like that for the Rangers in about a week. It won't be double-A pitching, so he may not get 4 hits every night. But it reminded me what a gross violation of Jerry Jones' never let your money get mad rule Artie Moreno committed in being so frustrated with the player. He essentially paid him $110 million for 2 seasons. The Rangers will pay him $6 million for 3 seasons. That is a bad deal for anybody. For anybody ever, I mean, no matter how he.
How about Tim covering live events in Frisco?
Yeah.
Impressive.
How many Frisco? The Rough Riders.
4-7 were the odds for Kalishaw today. Good win for him. That's going to do it, folks. Thanks for coming around. 23.5 hour break. See you tomorrow.